College football nation. We are back and we are coming off a big week. A big week. I was able to take down the 100K. I moved myself up in the Roto Grinders ratings to number 7. Yeah, I know I'm a loser. I
How
follow
are
that
you
stuff,
one?
but
How are you not number one now?
it's
You
a
know what I
good
mean?
question. It's a good. You know what's funny? There's like up to the 5. I'm not even close to the top 5. There's somehow I guess you got to play in every tournament to actually get any higher than that. I
Yeah, yeah.
think.
But I mean, hey, look, we were on it last week, but one of the things that you did, and I thought was so valuable and an awesome job taking down that 100K, but that remix in that Texas Tech game to go with their quarterback and stick with the game script. And that's what we need to tell people. Stick with your script because Texas Tech, I mean, this kid's better than what they had, at quarterback. And you stuck with it and it paid off big. What was he, like 46? Like 5K?
4,500.
Yeah,
He is
yeah.
the minimum for a quarterback. And I mean, listen, it worked out for me when I saw that Smith was going to be out. I had to make some changes. So when I went to him, it didn't give me a lot more money in my lineup. So I made a few more adjustments where I was able to get in the Ohio State passing game, which obviously paid off
Huge.
because they were a monster, which I wouldn't have had in if it wasn't going to him because the salaries wouldn't have worked out. So it obviously all worked out well because I was able to get him in there.
But the
But
tight
like
end,
you said,
but the
but
tight
what
ends too.
the tight ends were huge. And I hit on, I mean, yeah, I was really hot on the tight ends. I was like, I hit on Sanders on Texas. We talked about the
Dunham,
Maryland tight end Dyches. We talked about Michigan's tight end Schoolmaker. Was there one other one too?
Purdue, Dunham, right?
And that was the biggest one,
He was the
obviously.
biggest one.
And Durham,
And
he was
he
the
caught one
biggest
near the
one.
end
Yeah.
of the game, and I'm like, yes, like just it was an early game. He got 2, and I'm like, because Charlie Jones got shut out. But if he was going to get shut out, it was all done. Man, you threw up the stats, like
Yep.
Maryland,
Yep.
bad against covering.
They give him a big day to a tight end every week.
Mm-hmm.
And he did one with Durham. Durham, that play you're referencing,
Durham,
he
I
got
was
tackled
seeing
at the
Dunham.
one.
Yep, yep, yep,
He got
yep.
tackled at the one. If that would have been a touchdown, he would have just completely broken the slate. It would have been over. But that was fine. He paid off his salary. But I mean, I'm looking at this thing. And we'll get to it as we go through the games. But um, Maryland now this week has a tight end they're going against in Indiana, who is Indiana they're playing this week. Yeah, it's Indiana who is like he's caught like 3 balls twice this year. He's not quite a premier player. But I still might go back to him because I think they're going to give up big plays to tight ends. I'm not going to play him. I'm not as confident in him as I was Durham last week, but I just think it's a spot to target. That they don't have to do a good job covering tight ends. Miles Dutton, thanks for joining. Miles, I know you're a big Vols fan. You got a big week this week
Huge.
versus Bama. This is it with Hooker. This is his make or break for his basically his Tennessee career. If they pull off this game, I mean, you'd be looking at a playoff spot, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree. You're getting 2 out of that SEC more than likely, especially the way everything's landing right now. So why not Tennessee, right? And if they pull off this week, Alabama's been living by the skin of their teeth. So this is going to be a really, really fun one. I can't wait. And Joel, the big point about last week was we gave you everything that was there. Obviously, you used it to bring home a huge one, which is great. So let's keep bringing it because I feel like every week we're right there, and I'm glad people are following and listening.
That's it. It's it. Keep it, and I'll double down on the point you made before we dive into the slate. Well, I'll double down on what as you noticed when the quarterback got hurt. Instead of completely changing my team, I just went to the other quarterback. The idea is like the way they really find success in these college slates, target game environments. Right? I still wanted a piece of that game environment because I knew those defenses weren't strong and there was going to be points scored. Even if things go awry, like if you don't like the quarterback on a certain team, you like the running, whatever. If you like the environment, the points, just get exposure to those games. That's how it's going to play out. And that's what we're going to do every week, right? We're going to find those matchups like we did last year, and we're still doing this year with Michigan State. Target pass catchers against them because they can't cover anyone, right? And so these teams funnel certain guys and find those environments, and you'll find the players that will get the points by doing so. So we got a big slate this week. This week is interesting because there's a whole lot of games that have a high scoring potential. So we're going to be able to have dive into those games a bit. And there's a lot of games that are probably going to be pretty small or we can pass over. So kind of stay tuned, take a look at where you really want to be focused. Maybe there's one or two guys we like in some of those other games. So we'll dive right in. Well, starting with the first game of the slate, which is going to be this Auburn Ole Miss game. I don't think this is a heavy game to target. I'm not going to play anyone on the Auburn side of this equation.
Agreed.
I think this Ole Miss defense has improved. They can slow people down. This Auburn offense is not very strong. And the only guys I'm even interested in on the Ole Miss side are the backs between Evans and Judkins, but they're both priced up as RB1s and they split carries, which makes it hard. Now, this Auburn defense is beatable, so I think there is an opportunity there on the ground. But with splitting carries, it's a lot of money to pay. What do you think, Dave?
I agree. I'm not sure what I want to do yet. I mean, Georgia hung 41, 42, but it was late and it was all spread out. Bennett didn't have a great game. Bowers didn't have a great game. The running was well distributed. The only other game they've let up more than 21 was Penn State. And that was another weird game where Clifford didn't have anything huge. It was just, listen, I'm not calling Auburn good, but I'm calling it's a tough team to attack right now. And for me, Judkins has passed the point of return. I loved him at 5. I loved him at 55. I was fine at 6 last week. I'm not good at 68. So I know Dart threw up a huge week 448 passing, but it's not happening again. That was Vanderbilt. So I feel like this is a fade game for me. I can't find anything that I'm really in love with here.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's not much here I love.
I mean,
either.
Maybe Mingo, right? Mingo had that huge week last week. I don't know, but he was so unreliable before that.
Yeah, I agree. If you're gonna play a receiver, it's Mingo. Watkins too was okay last week. He had I think 7 for 102, and Watkins is cheaper. So I could get behind either of those two, but this is not a game environment I want to prioritize. So, I'm okay if you slip 1 or 2 in, but I think there's better spots to attack.
I agree.
Now we'll look at this Kansas-Oklahoma game. This is going to be interesting because Oklahoma's defense has looked pathetic, and it's almost like a must target. Like I'm going to have some exposure to Kansas because I just don't see Oklahoma State getting many stops. I think on the Oklahoma side, I think they're going to score a lot of points, but I think they've overpriced Oklahoma to the point where it's hard to play them. I like them to score. I don't think it's a bad spot for them. I don't think Kansas is I think Kansas is actually underrated on the run. They're an okay run defense, but you can beat them in the air. But Gabriel at 9K, I think there's just better spots to go at quarterback than to pay up for him. And same thing with Mims at 8K. Like I would like Mims if he was priced accordingly at 6K, which he really should be. But at 8K, as him being your best player, I just think there's better routes to go.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Kansas, I'm really interested in Bean. He looked better than Daniels. There was just something that like the passing game just looked smoother. I will be very interested in Bean. The problem is 7,500 just feels like a ton. But versus Oklahoma, I might be willing to pay 85. Like it was that bad. So I'm interested in Bean. I'll see where I land. Neal hasn't been great of late. Hasn't gone over double digits in 4 or 5 games. So I'm out there. One interesting area is the tight end Fairchild. Was it Daniels? I don't know. But last week with Bean, he found a connection, had 3 for 60 and 3 for 80 and a touchdown, 17 points at that 3,500 price tag. I'm going to take a chance just because I think maybe it was something more with Bean, and now that he's in, that I think there could be a connection there at 3,500.
I think it's a good call. You're right. If Bean looks his way a little bit more at 3,500, low risk, right? If he catches one, then he's going to make his value, especially if you pair him with Bean. I think I have a similar thought on Skinner, right? He's lower risk. I don't, he does have the upside. He can break one off and catch a touchdown. So if you want to take a chance on a pass catcher, I don't mind going for those guys. But I actually do like Neal this week. I think, Highshaw was out last week. This Oklahoma team is not good at tackling. With Neal getting that little bit of extra carries and exposure, I think there is potential. If he breaks off one run, which I think he can, I think he'll more than make value at 5,700 against a pretty bad Oklahoma defense.
Yeah, that is a good point. We loved Bijan last week, and he did come back and pay dividends. We've seen kill anytime we went running back against Oklahoma. So, and 5,700, you can go wrong and be okay sometimes. So, yeah, I'm all right. I mean, even if he flops, what is he, 10, 12?
Yeah, I mean, he had 88 yards last week. He didn't score. We need him to score. He needs to get in the end zone. So if he can get you in the end zone, he'll pay off.
But a flop for him is what, 10, 12 points is what I'm saying. So, yeah, I could see that 50. And then the ceiling is probably 25, 30. So, yeah, you know what? Yes, I could play some Neal.
All right. I just got to bring this up for 1 second, just because it's always a good laugh. Do we think General Booty's going to get in the game, or?
I don't, but I wish. I want to get a jersey.
I would get, honestly, I'll get a General Booty. If General Booty gets in the game and scores a touchdown this year, I'm going to buy a jersey and wear it on the show. That's my commitment.
My other guy's Kool-Aid. I forget where he plays, but there's a Kool-Aid out there too, and I'm in.
Well, he's coming through your wall.
Yes, exactly. The Kool-Aid man head cover here to prove it. My golf head cover. Oh yeah.
Yes. That is great. All right, so let's take a look at this Iowa State Texas game. This one is a good game in real life. It's not a great game for fantasy purposes because this Iowa State team's got a pretty good defense. They're going to probably slow it down a little bit. I don't think we're going to get the game environment we want.
There he is.
Probably going to.
It was in Bama. Yeah, I knew I saw him out there. I saw a squirrel Kool-Aid. Thanks, Josh. I knew I saw him out there.
What a name. Name. For me this week on the Texas, I'm probably going to fade Texas. I don't need to pay $9,200 for Bijan against a pretty tough Iowa State run D. And the passing game on the Texas side is, not good enough they're cheap enough, I guess, if you wanted to take a shot, but this is a pretty tough Iowa State defense, so I'm not too excited there. The only guy even on this game I'm really interested in is potentially Hutchinson, because I do think they just throw him the ball so much. He's one of the best receivers in the country. 8,300 steep, but this guy's going to get 12 targets at a minimum, so I feel like he's pretty safe. But other than that, I'm probably not going to be looking at this game too much.
Yeah, and I get it, and I don't disagree, but Ewers at 5,700 just feels like I can gamble with him. And then if I do, I'm probably going to go with Worthy, and that's it. I'm not paying $9,200 for Bijan. So I might see myself. Ewers got 28 last week. At 5,700, I just got to see low 20s, and I think he can get there. Iowa State has been really good against a lot of teams. They did against K-State again last week, but the one time they kind of let up, Shapen hit him for a little bit with Baylor. So, I might go off the script a little bit with Ewers and Worthy, but not a ton.
That's fair. I mean, he is cheap enough where if it hits, you've given yourself so much flexibility elsewhere to build up the lineup. So I can totally get behind that. All right. Now, the Minnesota-Illinois game, I'm not even going to pull up the depth chart here.
No.
The only two players maybe you can consider are the two running backs because they both get so many carries, Ibrahim and Chase. So if you wanted to consider those two guys, fine. But this is going to be a low-scoring, terrible fantasy environment. Not a game I'm going to be looking to target heavily.
I'm out.
You're out.
I'm out. So we're good.
That's fair. Now we can look at this Penn State-Michigan game. Again, the Penn State side I'm fully out on. Michigan defense is pretty strong. On the Michigan side, Corum is, I'm never going to completely eliminate Corum from my player pool. He's one of the best players in the country. He can go off at any time. Not my favorite matchup. This Penn State front's pretty tough, so it's like I don't love Corum this week. I'm not going to be overexposed, but maybe a couple lines. But who I do like this week is Ronnie Bell, who if you believe in the Penn State run defense that they can slow them down, Michigan's got to score. I think they have to go to the air. Ronnie Bell's been pretty good. I think he can get a lot of targets. This Penn State pass defense is beatable. He's the guy they're going to try and beat him with. And if you wanted to go cheaper, you can go with Schoonmaker again, who was one of their top targets. Also, they get him involved, and at 3,800, the price is right.
Yeah, I like that call. I may on the Penn State side play Singleton, but that's it. I just feel like he's one of those guys that could just break one loose. So take a chance on someone like that. I'm out. Everyone else, yes, on Michigan side, Corum's a little much for me, and they just don't give him the ball enough to Edwards. So it's Bell. So it's a low-owned game, but those are the two explosive players. So I could take a chance.
I'm with you there. Now, the game I'm excited to talk about, I think that's really interesting, is this Miami-Virginia Tech game. We started talking about it, Dave, before the show a little bit. And what I'm excited about is Tyler Van Dyke. Tyler Van Dyke, if you guys remember last year, at the end of the year, came on strong. We were playing him a lot toward the end of the year. We loved him. Started this year terrible, like unplayable. Like he was just the first 4 weeks, it was like, what is going on with this Miami offense? They changed their offense up a little bit last week to the spread, and they went completely bonkers. Now, in fairness, it was against North Carolina, and North Carolina's defense stinks, and we typically target guys against them, and he looked great against them, but he's not. Virginia Tech's better than North Carolina on defense. So keep that in mind. But Van Dyke's 5K. This guy is a guy I think is going to play in the NFL. He's the 5K is so cheap. And if they decide to go back to that throwing offense where he throws 50 times a game, this is a smash play because they're just going to have so much volume through the air that 5K is going to easily get paid off.
Yeah, I agree. He had a huge week last week. And Yvonne, you're right. This is the best test since Auburn. And in that game, Auburn ran for 119 yards, 3.3 yards per carry. Bigsby went for 39. So, a lot. I think Penn State's going to answer the bell here. I think Corum's way too much. So I think you're leaning that way too. But good point. It's definitely, a test. Best game on the – it's hard to say. Bama, Tennessee, Penn State, Michigan, 2 great games. But, yeah, in this one, I think TVD is going to be in play. You said one of the key words, NFL talent. Before the season started, there were talks of him possibly being the 3rd or 4th best quarterback coming out of this group and going in the NFL draft and being a potential top 12, 15 pick. It's faded a little, obviously, to his bad start, but they're changing some things for him. He's got it. He's got the arm. He's got the talent. And Virginia Tech is bad. I'm talking very, very bad. So I love TVD. I think, man, I can't see him going under 20 in this game. And at 5K, I think he's a great spot. You're right. You know what's going to scare people? This game totals 48, which you only have, 1-2 other games below that. So people are going to get scared. I think TVD could come in and really surprise people.
I think, yeah, and I agree. The concern is that this Virginia Tech offense is not great. So it's hard to see it being like a shootout. Like, Virginia Tech's not going to score 35 points. Like, that's just not what they do. Miami can, though. So you got to hope that it becomes, 35-14, and they just blow them out of the water and score a bunch of points. That's the way he's going to get there, which I think is a real possibility this week. And then for pass catchers, they're all underpriced, like everywhere. Parrish got 7 catches last week as a running back. So that just shows you how high his floor is with those point per catch. At receiver, there's a lot of guys they get the ball to. I happen to be real. I like Frank Ladson Jr. They get him the ball a lot at 3,900. He's so cheap that he hasn't had a 100-yard game, but he's gotten 5-6 catches a game, which so for 3,900, that's really cheap. And if he breaks one off, he's going to easily pay off. But my favorite,
Mallory. Are you getting to Mallory?
Okay,
my
favorite pass catcher is Mallory.
Yeah.
3,500. He's criminally underpriced.
Yeah.
I think he's probably the number 1 target they have. They throw to him a ton. Obviously, we know Miami's tight end you.
Yeah,
exactly. Shockey. They had they had the what's the guy who's on the Jets for a little bit, the tight end. What's his name? Is something Wilson.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kellen Wilson. Winslow. Kellen Winslow. That's
yes,
what
he
it
was.
was. They've had a bunch of guys. They've had a bunch of big time tight ends. Miami's tight end you. Will Mallory's their guy right now. 3,500 is just it's just a misprice. If you need a cheap salary saver, he's going to be the guy this week, 100%. The last guy I'll even mention is Brashard Smith. He's been involved. He's bare minimum. He gets 3 or 4 targets. He's not going to break the slate. He's just not that involved, but he's consistently involved enough where he can get you 3 for 50. And the bare minimum price is another sneaky value play you can look at. If you want to pair any of these Miami guys with a Virginia Tech side that have the stack, Malachi Thomas is Virginia Tech's best player. That he's going to get involved. I also don't hate Caleb Smith at the 4K price, who had a huge game, pretty good game last week. And if this does become a relatively high-scoring game or a shootout, he's someone I would consider as well.
Yeah, we got a question here. Are we playing Bangura in GPPs?
For sure.
I think that's the only place to play him.
Fair. Yeah.
I'm trying to decide here, but I think you play safer in cash. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's see. When is that game up? Well, we'll get to that game later. I think that entire game is one of the better environments.
Well, I got a ton in that. Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, it's a game that isn't as it's two teams that aren't as popular that people don't know about, but it's got one of the higher over unders. It could easily become a shootout. I think it's a game that's really smart to target. And Bangura, what I like most about him is with as much points that are available in that game, he's pretty underpriced, right? He's pretty cheap. So, yeah, Will Mallory's a stud.
And that's
He's a
what
stud.
and Joel mentioned last week tight ends were huge, but this week, I mean, we've already noted a few of them. This one's and we did it before when Michael Meyer got. Well, I think we hit him early in the season when he was like 38, 39K. Very similar. I think Will Mallory is a big push here. We'll be getting to the Ohio game any minute here, but I got a few in that game. We'll talk about that. But yeah, let's what do we got now? Oh, the big one.
Before we get there, this is the game. Now, Bama, Tennessee is the game of the week. There are a lot. I mean, this is just a great football game, regardless of fantasy, right? There's a lot of implications of the playoffs this week. This game can go two ways to me, right? I think in Tennessee's perfect world, this is a shootout, and they go back and forth because Tennessee, in my opinion, is the more explosive offense. Tennessee is the better offense. Tennessee is the team that should win a shootout. Alabama is still the better football team. Alabama has, a Heisman finalist quarterback, and they have the best defense in the country, if not the second most defense in the country. So, if it's a low-scoring game like last week, that's to Alabama's advantage, right? Slow the pace down. Don't let Hooker get going. But if this becomes a shootout and Hooker gets going, I think the playmakers are on Tennessee's side. So, I think a lot of people from a DFS perspective are going to target this game, and then it's a shootout. So it's up to you. I can see it going that route, and I'm totally fine with playing a lot of guys in this game. I'm also going to be fine not playing that much of this game and going in a different direction, thinking Bama's defense is tough. So that's kind of up to you guys.
Yeah, I will say this, and sorry, this I'm trying to put Josh's up here, and he's right. Like, there's some stuff out there that sounds like he's not playing. I think he is. I think that's Saban playing the media. My theory is that Saban knows they are not winning tomorrow without Young playing. That's just my opinion. I mean, obviously, that's probably a lot of people's opinion, but it showed last week they cannot pass the ball, and they're not going to be able to simply just run the ball and get lucky. Like Texas A&M's offense is bad, like really bottom of the barrel bad. They can't get away with that with Tennessee. He's going to try and find a way for him to play. So I think he's going to play. That's just my opinion, but I'm still not ready to probably plug him in at 9,500. I just can't do it.
No, he's not. In my opinion, I think he's not the right play at 9,500. He's got to be so unbelievably good for a guy who doesn't have the same receivers he's had in previous years. This receiving core is fine, but they're not superstars. And to expect him to go for 350 and 4, which is basically what you need for this to pay off. There's just so many better options that can get you close to that price for much less. I don't really think Bryce Young's in play for me. I'm not going to be playing him. The only guy on the Bama side that I'm interested in is Gibbs because I think they're going to try and establish him and set the pace of the game. So Gibbs, who I look at there.
And if he plays, right? If Young plays, Gibbs is such a talent out of the backfield catching the ball. I think they spread the field though. Gibbs is still in play for me.
So yes, Josh, I'm sorry. I had Heisha on the lineup because I was just confirming that he was out before I recommended Neal in Kansas. Yeah. Gotcha. So I was confirming he was out so that we could say yes, Neal's going to get enough volume.
No, I'm following now. Yep, I see it now. Heisha. Yep.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure he's out. I think I took him out of my lineup too. On the Tennessee side, like I said, if this becomes a shootout, I mean Hooker's as good as anyone in the country. 7,700. He's totally fair priced here. He may be underpriced a little bit, so I'm totally fine with playing Hooker. Like I said, I can see this going either way. This is a tough Alabama defense, so I can see them slowing them down, but I can see Tennessee getting this game going. I won't play any of the running game, but if I do play Hooker, I'll pair him with Hyatt or McCoy. Those are his two main targets that he gets involved in. I think either one of those guys could be his main target this week.
Yeah, I really liked Hyatt last week because, don't get fooled by what you saw. The stats were there. He caught 2 touchdowns, but only 4 balls for 63. And he was targeted a ton. He's the guy. They use him in the screen game. They use him in the deep game. So you can get vertical with him, and you can play a little horizontal. Hyatt's my guy if I'm going to pair with Hooker. I agree.
All right. Now, I'm very intrigued by this Arkansas BYU game because Arkansas's defense looks terrible, just
Oh my God.
absolutely
Yeah.
atrocious. And
Yeah.
it's at a point where it's like, just play players against this defense. They're going to score. They're not going to all of a sudden be able to stop people. So this BYU offense is pretty good. They're going to score. So who do you want, right? Jared Hall's in play. He's pretty priced up for how he's been this year. But if there's a week for him to break out, it's this one.
Yep.
I think Brooks isn't playing, and he's the same. He's priced up for how he's played this year. Again, if there's a week for him to break out, it's this one. So the good thing is, because they have been a bit disappointing to date, I think you're getting, and their prices are a little inflated, you should get really good ownership numbers. And this is a spot where they can break the slate. Like this defense, this game, they can really go off.
I agree. I think Puka's my favorite on the BYU side. I know you got to almost like duck your head under water and hold your breath for about a minute, but believe me, Puka's a talent. I know he only has 4 catches, 48 yards this year, but now we're getting down in the 4,600 range for a kid that's really that good. Just hasn't had the chance to explode yet. Injuries, and then you get back at Notre Dame, which is a pretty good team. Don't get us wrong. Now you get the open field. I like Puka a lot this week.
I'm with you. I love Puka. I'm not as much, but I also like Gunnar Romney. Gunnar Romney was awesome with Zach Wilson. And he's been hurt. If he's healthy again, he can also be having an explosive game. So Puka I prefer because he's cheaper, and we've seen it more recently, his explosiveness. But I wouldn't be afraid to sprinkle a little bit on Romney as well.
Yeah, and that's key because Roberts is out, who was kind of like their target guy. At least last I saw he was out. I'm not sure he still is, but I think he is. He was their target guy on their season without Puka. So I think, having that, him out, I think it opens up for Romney and Puka.
For sure. Now on the Arkansas side, KJ Jefferson looks like he's back. At 6,400, he's in play because he's two players.
Yes.
He's a running back and he's a quarterback.
Uh-huh.
So in a game that I think is going to be high scoring, I think you can play KJ. But my favorite play here is going to be Raheem Sanders. He's their bell cow. He's going to get over 20 touches. This BYU run defense isn't great. I mean, it's beatable. So just the sheer fact that Sanders is going to get the volume that he's going to get, it's just a really good spot for him here.
Yeah, I mean, listen to the games that BYU has played. They played a 48-point game against Notre Dame last week, which was actually pretty high with Notre Dame. 64 against UT State, Wyoming 62, Oregon 61, Baylor 46, and USF 71. They're playing games on average in the 60s. We got to focus on this game, and Sanders is by far my favorite on the Arkansas side. And I think KJ's in play. He kind of screwed me a little bit last week. I thought he was going to play. He was warming up. Didn't play, but I think this week it looks like he's clear to go.
Yeah, it happened to me too. I played too much KJ last week. I thought he was going to play.
Yeah.
I know that one hurt. But not complaining. I ended up having a decent week.
Decent, yeah.
Oh, we'll move over to this OK State TCU game. Honestly, this is another one. Smash it. I love it. This might be my favorite game of the week to target, to be honest with you. And I like so many players in this game. I'm like, where do I begin? I'll start with Duggan. Duggan's been unreal. I mean, Duggan has been, at this point, he's proven it. And you couldn't ask for a better matchup in that this Oklahoma State run D is okay, and they can't stop the pass for anything. So It's just like the perfect scenario for him to just drop back and throw it a bunch of times. I think Duggan going for 303 is a lock. And if he breaks off a running touchdown too, he's broken the slate, and he's the quarterback to own. Kendre Miller is in play too. I just think he's underpriced for as good of a back is, and he can break off a big run at any point. He breaks off one, and he's basically paid off his value for this game. And then the receiver, I love Duggan. I'm only going to play Quentin Johnson. I could understand someone wanting to play Barber or Davis, but for me, it's just Quentin Johnson. I mean, this guy, he is their best receiver. They finally got him going last week. They targeted him absurd 14 times or something. So they finally are making an effort to get him the ball, and I see no reason why they wouldn't do that again this week.
I remember saying last week, I can't touch Quentin Johnson because they won't throw him the ball. He had 12 catches in his first 5 games and gets 14 alone last week, explodes, and I'm sitting there with my hands in my pants, 40 points. He had more last week than he had in his first 5 weeks, but he's back. He's back. He's that guy we remembered, and I'm with you. I think that's the way you're going to have to beat good teams using your best players. You can't toy around anymore. So So Quentin's definitely in play for me. The curiosity on the other side, I don't know what to do with Braden Johnson. He went out. He ended up not playing last week, which he was in a really, really good spot, I thought. And, what's surprising is I'm looking at it now. He was, 4,300 last week? Or something around there. And now he's like 69 when he didn't play. Like, I don't know what to do there. I'm a little scared. I was wondering what you're thinking because I love him if he plays.
So I'm with you. And again, go back to, even if he's in the 5K range, I love him. The concern between the injury and the 68 price tag is getting me off of him because he's so priced up now that like he has to be one of the best receivers on the slate to pay off, which, he's their best receiver, but they do spread it around. And Presley's involved, Bray gets involved, Richardson gets involved. So now that he's priced up, I'm not saying I'm going to completely fade him, but I'm not as bullish on him anymore because he's a little bit too expensive at this point.
But we're good with Sanders, right?
Yeah, for sure Sanders. I'm playing Sanders because, again, he's another one. He's 2 players. He's going to get 15 carries, and he's going to maybe run a touchdown. Then he's also going to throw for over 250. And how many he throws for tells you if he breaks the slate or not. And a game that has one of the best scoring environments of the week where this is going to be a shootout. I can't imagine this game is not a shootout. Sanders is 100% in play. And the thing with Sanders, you can play Sanders solo. You don't have to pair him with anyone because he has the rushing upside. But if Johnson ends up out, I think it makes all these other guys way more interesting because I think they just kind of eat up a lot of those targets. If Johnson's in, I'm probably more likely just to fade the receivers altogether.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing about Sanders, he's risk. He likes to be risky, right? We almost want him to throw 1 or 2 picks because it really creates that kind of crazy game. So I'm still okay playing him, and I kind of almost want to play him on my own. I'm with you. If Braden's in, I'll duel them up, but otherwise I'll probably go Sanders on my own and really stack the case, the TCU side. That's just kind of where my gut's at right now.
Yeah, I mean, if Johnson's out, Bryson Green and Presley's a little overpriced for what he does, but I think Green's the guy. Green looked pretty good last week.
He did.
Him. He had a bunch of catches, so he might be a guy at 4,500 who can break one off. And if you don't play Sanders, again, this is a game you just want to have exposure to. I'll play some Dominic Richardson. I mean, he'll get his carries, and it could be a game where maybe he runs a couple in and takes away from Sanders. So, again, just somewhere I want to have exposure in some way. Richardson is a pivot that I can get behind as well.
Yeah, and I agree with the Green. I think that's probably the safest play at 4,500.
Yeah, but I'm only on Green if Johnson's out. If Johnson's in, then it's too murky. Okay, so let's go over to this NC State Syracuse game. Both teams are slower paced. NC State's got a good defense. I don't love this game that much as a game environment. I will say NC State has struggled with running quarterbacks, and now they're about to face the best running quarterback in the country, and at only 6K. I do think Schrader's very, very much so in play because of that. Again, this is not going to be one of those 42-40 games. That's just not how these teams play. But Schrader is 2 players. He throws and runs. He's going to get 15 to 20 carries. And North Carolina State's struggled with running quarterbacks this year.
Yeah, they have. NC State's solid. I mean, Uiagalelei had a decent game. Shipley had a decent game, but you're not going to break the slate against NC State. So could Schrader possibly, because he's what you talked about. He's a little bit of everything. I could play Schrader at 6K. I'm not sure I'm getting anywhere else. I mean, I love Tucker, but I just don't love Tucker this week. So it's probably Schrader, and that's it for me on the Q side. Leary got hurt last game against Florida State. I'm curious. I'm hearing doubtful this week. Syracuse gets in, it's in a dome, right? They get in those kind of track meets on the turf. I could see Houston getting involved here a little bit at a cheap price here. Running backs have had some success against Syracuse, but I don't know. They're just not a running team, so I just don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of explosion of the NC State offense.
No.
Demi is cheap, and he's a freshman. He's looked explosive because of he's cheap, but I just don't think I'm going to get there this week. I can understand it. The other guy that maybe I'll consider on the other side is maybe if you want to connect a pass catcher, Syracuse tight end Gadsden's pretty involved.
Yeah.
Um, they throw him a lot. So I only really want to pair Gadsden maybe in a lineup with Schrader if I'm really going there and he catches one. But at 6K, it's a little much for him. If Gadsden was 5K, I'd like a little bit more. But 6K, he needs to do a lot to pay that off.
And let me say this: I love Gadsden, but I'd be comfortable playing him on his own outside of Schrader. I just think, if they get into that environment when he's catching a lot of balls, Schrader might only be going for 200 passing, not much rushing. So keep an eye on it. I like pairing them up, but I'm comfortable using him outside alone.
Yeah, that's a good call. That's their top guy for sure. All right, so let's take a look at this Maryland-Indiana game. Started to mention a little bit earlier. I think now I have conviction on this Maryland pass defense. 2-2 spreads it out too much. I'm pretty much come off all the Maryland receivers. The only way I really can get on them is if they're cheap enough where it won't hurt me if they don't break the slate. And the only guy really cheap enough to do that is the tight end Dyches, who did break out last week. But last week, you notice he broke off a big touchdown. He'll kind of have to do that again to really break the slate. Like, he'll get you his 5 for 45, and that's fine. But, in a GPP, it's like you said, it's fine. I don't think that's going to win you the tournament unless he breaks a long one. So, you can play Tua without pairing him with someone. I mean, this Indiana defense is bad. They're going to score a lot of points. He might spread out and throw to 4 different receivers, but I think Tua will get it. 6,900, he's priced up a little bit. I'm not like in love with 2-2 this week, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it, but he just hasn't broken the slate yet. That maybe I'm just being, scorned a little bit here, but I'm done with him. Like for now, I'm done with him, but I can see, and even Hemby. I mean, I loved Hemby. He looked like a tough rusher, 7 carries last week. Come on. Like Purdue does have a decent defensive front. And I keep trying to tell people that they shut a lot of teams down, including Minnesota and Syracuse. So maybe they just got away from the running game too early, and Hemby will be a breakout. But I mean, it's tough for me to. I mean, Indiana's defense is so bad. I want to play some people, but Demas has been gone this year. Like, I don't know. Jarrett, 4 catches last week. Like, he hasn't broke out for more than 20 in one game this year. So I just think I'm off Maryland until they tell me, even though this could be that week.
Yeah, I still think they're going to score a lot of points. There's 5 different guys that are going to be involved. There's not funneled to one guy. It's all spread out. I think it's very difficult from a DFS perspective to target one of them.
And
the other side of the ball,
I like the other side. I think Basilak could be decent. What do you think? He throws a ton.
Well, I was going to say one of my favorite receivers is Cam Camper. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Why do they keep disrespecting him at 5800? This guy gets as many targets as anyone in the country on a week-to-week basis. This Maryland team, great. I hope they do score 40 points so that all Indiana has to do is throw it a bazillion times to Camper. So I love Camper. He should be $1,000 more every week. I don't know why they continue to disrespect him. Totally underpriced. I'm going to be playing a heavy dose of Camper. And then because of what I said, last week, the same thing applies here. Maryland has a thing. They just get beat by tight ends. They just aren't good at covering them. They have a hole in their defense. AJ Barner is not, the talent that of Durham last week, but he gets involved. I mean, he gets 2 or 3 catches a week, so he could break one off at 3,600 as well.
I love you pointing that out. That's really key here because you don't have to be a great tight end against Maryland. So good call. I like it. And Camper, I mean, I even think 2 of their guys are questionable this week. So that even makes him more intriguing on this slate against they shut down again. They did shut down Jones, but every other secondary receiver last week, including the tight end, got loose against Maryland. So I think Indiana is probably more focused to find Camper in different spots than what Purdue was doing last week. So yeah, I'm all in.
Totally. All right, now this is the game we were referencing earlier. The big game is Ohio Western Michigan game. So what I'll start by saying is this Ohio defense is one of the worst in the country. They can't stop anyone, which just makes for a great game script in every game they play because they can't get stops. So they have to come back down and score a lot because they can't get any stops. Now, this Western Michigan offense has not been as good as we would have liked this year. But if there's a get-right spot, it's this one. This is the definition of get-right spot. One of the worst defenses in the league. Sean Tyler, again, he hasn't been great, but he's okay. If they're going to score points, he's in play. But my preference on the Western Michigan side is going to be Cruz, who's their number 1 receiver. They throw him as much as they can. My only issue with Crooms this week is if they get out to a lead and then they just don't throw the ball. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a back and forth game. And I actually like a lot of the Ohio side as well. And I think there was a question in the chat about Bangor already at 5,500, 100% in play. I think this game has got to be a lot of points. I like Rourke a lot at quarterback, who's had some slate-breaking games already this year. And you can pass him with some really cheap pass catchers, right? I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. Wigloos is their number one guy at 5K. He's very involved. So definitely someone I'll be heavily playing. My second favorite option is Jacoby Jones at 3,600, who had 2 games in the last 3 weeks where he went for like over 100 yards. So at 3,600, it's just a great value.
Yeah, I agree. I'm more excited probably on the Ohio side, even though I know Ohio has a really bad defense and we can get Coombs and some other in Western Michigan. But the talent I feel on offense is with the Bobcats. I like Rourke's. I like Wigloos. And, we said it earlier, that Gory, I mean, I think we're all in on those 3. I think he can spread it out well. I like the Colin Jones. He's been some really sneaky games in here. He's a probably low risk, high reward kind of guy. So I see more of the game script on the Ohio side, but again, WMU is going to put points too, but I think it's going to be really all around Coombs.
I'm with you. I'm definitely with you.
And I see Coombs, I mean Coombs, but yeah, he's been there forever.
Yeah, and he's a stud. And it's almost a shame that the quarterback that they have in there hasn't been as good because they get him the ball. He can really break the slate. The last game to look at here, this Michigan State-Wisconsin game, not a game I love, not a game I'll be heavy on, but there's a few guys that you can sprinkle into your lineups from this game. Graham Mertz is 5,300. They tried to let him throw the ball. He's pretty bad. I don't really like Graham Mertz, but at 5,300, I mean, against like the Michigan State pass D that we like to target, maybe. But, more interesting to me is DK, who is their top receiver. They got him the ball last week a bunch. I think they'll go back to him this week. It's a good matchup for him. I will be targeting. Braylon Allen is one of the better running backs in the country. This Michigan State team's defense has been pretty bad. I'm okay with Allen as well. And on the Michigan State side, it's just Jalen Reed. Jalen Reed last year was one of the best receivers in the country. They've struggled this year. Reed has been hurt, banged up. I think he's getting right. They're getting him more involved. At 5,100, I think he's a little bit underpriced.
Yeah, I think DK going for 10, 185, and 3 last week, almost 50 DK points, 5K at that time. Now only up to 56 versus the worst pass defense we saw last year, and now is trying to repeat as champs. A dubious feat, by the way, but we watched CJ Stroud go off on them last week, and all 3 receivers were in play from Ohio State with Harrison and the crew there. So I think DK is an awesome, awesome target. I hate Mertz. I'll say it up front. I'll say it every week, but I could play him at 5,300. I could. I really could see it for this team. I could, and I might. All right, I will.
I didn't think I'd ever hear you say you can get to Mertz. I didn't think that would be a possibility.
Yeah, he sucks. I can throw left hand better than him, but I mean, versus Michigan State, why not?
You're right. I agree with you. If there's a spot to play him, it's this one. It makes sense. So again, you're playing Mertz because he's cheap and it's a really good spot. You're not going to get 304 out of him, but you don't need that. No. I do think he can get you 250 and 3, which would be more than pay off that $5,300 price tag.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a game that you might want to play a little bit because of the sneaky kind of stack you could get. Wisconsin did it last week against Northwestern. I'd rather play a team that's found some success and play them again than guess the success. So that's why I'm okay playing Wisconsin a little bit now.
I love it. There it is. That's a wrap for this week. Again, big slate. There's a lot of fun games to target, which does 2 things for us. I think the fun thing about it is it's not going to be overly condensed ownership because there's a lot of different directions people can stack and go. So you can kind of feel the freedom to go play who you want, knowing that I think the ownership will be a little bit spread out. Target those games you like to go over. Target those game environments. You can probably play how you want. There's plenty of value out there to go get. We told you the environment's a stack. Good luck.
Yeah, I agree. Look, when there's now there's 4 games over 65 points as a total, we're going to get a spread out card. I still agree with stacking a game, but play enough lineups this week. I really, Joel has said it before. He picks his spots when he goes with the 150 stack. If this is your week, maybe, but play enough that you're able to game stack in these, 4 or 5 games and then pick in the other one. So that's really where I'm going.
Yeah, get your exposure. And don't forget, as we say every week, don't allow you to fall into the trap of building a lineup and then just fitting in a cheap 3,000 guy because that's all that fits. That means you got to remove a more expensive guy and play 2 guys that are in a good game environment that have a chance to go off, because that one cheap guy that you put into your lineup, when he gets 1 point, is going to ruin your entire lineup. So don't fall into that trap.
Well, you can't win. Yeah, you can't win with that.
Win.
I agree. Like, we give you a couple, under 4K guys. Write them down. Circle them where you can fit them in. Great. If not, like Joel said, take an 8K guy out and go get 2 6Ks. That's what we got to do.
That's how you build it. Those are the types of lineups that win, not the ones that go super top heavy and then just pray at the bottom and they end up failing. Those lineups don't win typically in college. So there you have it. We gave you the plays this week. We're going in for another big week. Check us out on Twitter. Give us a follow. Hit the like button. It goes a long way. And then come back next week. Let us know how you did. I love to see all the green screens and the winnings. We're having a super hot season, and we're keeping that train going this week. Good luck. See ya next Friday.